Hello, my wonderful artists. I want to show you how to do the snowy tree and watercolor background, but I'm going to show you how to do it from home using your markers and a paintbrush with some water. So what you first need to do is pick out whether you're going to do warm colors or cool colors. You don't want to mix them too much because they get kind of brown and muddy, but you have a couple of options with this. I like using a big brush. You can use a smaller one. You are going to need to add more water to it. But you're going to need something plastic. It can be a paper plate, as long as it's kind of got that plastic coating to it. I'm going to do some warm colors. So I'm picking out all of my warm colors, which are reds, orange, yellows, and pinks. If you wanted to do cool colors, it would be blues, purples, and greens. Now, I've never seen a green sky, so that would be kind of weird. So if you could keep it to your blues and greens, that would be great. I have more options here at home for my warm colors. So what we're going to do is color on that plastic paper plate or whatever you have. This is just a piece of plastic from a paint palette that I had. And so I'm just going to add my colors in some of the clean spots here. And try and keep them separated so that they don't end up mixing together. Then I'm going to take my paintbrush and get it wet. And I'm going to add some water to my colors, and I kind of want a nice puddle going, so just dripping some water into those. Oh, I didn't clean my paintbrush out. Big no-no. Make sure you have a paper towel nearby that you can clean that paintbrush out. So we want to get yellow to be yellow, not yellow orange. If you wanted to mix the colors, you could, but they are going to mix on your paper. So I'm just adding some puddles to those. I'm gonna slide this out of the way. I know you won't be able to see it, but then I can take my colors and swipe them across the sky. So this is my red that kind of looks a little pink now. Might look a little orange on screen, but it is pink in person. I'm going to clean my brush out, and then I'm going to go into my yellow, add some yellow to my sky, and I'm working in the top, I would say half of my paper right now. I'm just really blending those colors together by going over top of the other colors. It's always best to start out with your darker colors and then go into your lighter colors. And I'm gonna beef up the sky by adding some orange to it. I always like going over my yellows with something a little bit darker so that it looks nice and smooth. Then the fun part is just adding some swipes of color, and not a lot. And you're gonna work kind of in the middle part of your paper here. So you don't want to kind of come down to the bottom. As you noticed on this, the bottom part is white. It's to make it look more like snow. And I kind of wanted the idea of clouds right there in that middle part. So that's where we're working right now. And I'm just going to use just the tip of my brush and just kind of swipe it across. Now this should not take very long. The idea here is that you repeat the colors that you used in the sky. And I'm just going to kind of keep it to pink and orange, maybe a teensy bit of red here. And I like that there's some white showing through. So you don't want to completely cover that middle section. After you're done with that, and you see how quickly that took, only 4 minutes in, and I am done painting. So we're going to let this completely dry, and I will come back and show you how to add in your tree drawing and the fence. And there are several options for how to make your fence, so we're going to demonstrate on another piece of paper and then add it to this one. I hope you guys have fun with this, and remember, it's fast, so move quickly. I hope you can find something plastic to put your watercolors on and have fun with that. I will be back in a minute. Okay everyone, we are back, and I'm going to show you some different ways to draw your fences. So I just grabbed a piece of paper that's kind of dirty on the other side to give you some options. So there's several types of fences that you could draw. You can do X's like so. You can do more of a picket fence. So you would draw long, skinny rectangles and then connect them with a longer skinny rectangle that kind of goes across the top, and you're going to color that in. And you definitely want to use a black marker for this. If you don't have a Sharpie, that's okay. You definitely want to use a black marker of any kind. And that's why it's important that your painting is dry before you decide to do this. And then you're going to color in all of these picket fence pieces so that they're nice and dark. And that's where the silhouette part comes in. A silhouette is simply a shadowy figure. Could be a silhouette of a person, or in our case, the fence and the tree. So you can keep coloring these guys in. You definitely don't want any white peeking through, okay? So make sure they're nice and solid. This last one done here. Okay, now this fence looks a little skinny, so what I would do is just kind of trace my lines to make sure it's nice and thick. And then it all connects to my other lines. Again, the thicker the line, the more of a silhouette it looks like it has. And then if you want these guys on the top to look more like a piece of wood, you need to make them nice and thick as well. Okay, so there's a couple ideas. Now, the one I did in my example that I kept showing you was I made big, thick rectangles. And kind of incorporated both of these together, and then I put an X, and then I need another big thick rectangle. If you're scared to do this in marker right off the bat, you can always draw it out in pencil first and then just trace over it. I do believe there were a few students in person who decided to go ahead and do it in pencil, and that is totally fine with me. Just as long as you go over your pencil lines and none of those are showing, no one will ever know. So there's kind of what I did in my original example, which I will grab here in a second. I just kept going so that it was, you know, a nice long fence. And then I made another rectangle, colored that one in, so that it just continued all the way across my paper, so that it made a nice fence line. Okay, so there's lots of ways to do that. Now, back to my painting. It is dry now and ready to draw on. First things first, you want to draw your tree. It's important that your tree is not super tiny, but that the branches stretch up like my fingers do up into the sky. So you want to make your tree trunk start at the bottom of your solid color and curve down and out, and then the opposite way on the other side. So there's my tree trunk, And then I add 1, 2, 3, 4 tree branches. Once I'm done adding those 4, then I can go back in and add other tree branches. Remember, tree branches reach up towards the sky. They're not perfectly straight, so having straight tree branches really doesn't make it look realistic. Make sure they're all connecting here. I know they don't connect to the tree trunk. We'll get there. But make sure they kind of wiggle around. And you can have lots of littler ones. Now this is much easier to do if you just kind of go for it with your marker. But if you're looking to practice, grab another piece of paper like I did. Practice first on another piece of paper, and that way you're comfortable, and then you can do it on your painting right as soon as you get started with a marker. Tracing over all those pencil lines after you've drawn them can be quite tedious and take a while. And that's where sometimes we get a little more sloppy. So just take your time. I kind of like making these little Y shapes and then going back down a little bit further and adding another one. All right, so here we go with coloring it all in. And that's where our tree branches that are kind of hanging out in the middle of space will help us. So I'm just going to pull these down until they connect. And I'm going to pull this guy in, and then I'm going to pull from this side. So now you have these little triangle shapes starting to form. And what I do is just kind of color from there down. Start on one side and work my way over to the other. If I need to go over my line some more so that these tree branches look thicker and more realistic, I can do that. And remember, if you mess up, it's really not that bad on a tree because they're not perfect. So anything that kind of sticks out or, you know, does one of those numbers, just trace over top of it and color it in, and it will look just like a tree. No one will ever know that you made a mistake. And then you want to color in the whole entire tree trunk. I think my marker is starting to dry out on me. Yeah, let me grab a different marker here. This one's a little bit thicker, so it should go a little faster, so you guys aren't sitting here watching me color forever. So a nice solid black tree trunk. And there you have it. The tree is done. Next is placement of our fence. So what you want to do is make sure that the bottom of the color that you added, those little wispies in, that little section right there in the middle, that's going to be the bottom of your fence. So what I like to do is start kind of on the right side of the tree. And I'm going to do big thick lines, and they kind of look like they're hovering in the middle of the world, and that's okay. And then I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to do my fence like this, straight across. Well, it's not important that it's perfectly straight, because, you know, old fences on farms and out in the middle of, you know, the world, they don't always have the most perfect wood on them, and they're not perfectly straight. Maybe they're falling apart a little bit. And there I've made my fence, and that did not take me very long at all. I hope you guys have fun with this. I can't wait to see your sky color and the way you create your tree. Again, remember, make sure it stretches all the way up into your sky. It shouldn't be small. It should be really big on your page. This one is as big as my hand, so make sure yours is nice and big as well. I hope you have fun.